RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Well, good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. We've got a lot to celebrate today, but this is not the end of the race. Obviously, elections are still fake and gay. We haven't passed the SAVE Act. President Trump hasn't put through that very important executive order on election security. However, we did hit a major milestone. Jasmine Crockett, Al Green, and Dan Crenshaw all lost their primaries last night. So that means at the end of this term, they will no longer be serving in Congress. Now, Crockett and Green were both pushed out as a result of redistricting. But Dan Crenshaw has been although a rhino, of course, he's had this seat for quite some time. He was pushed out by Steve Toth. That is a huge, huge win across the board. Major, major victories for candidates who were supported by President Trump. And my boy, Brandon Herrera, has in fact forced Tony Gonzalez into a runoff. Now, I need a couple of things from you. If you wouldn't mind, hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, hit the red pill, wherever you're at. Help us out by sharing the show. That would be so awesome. And if you don't mind, you can sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn because we are going to be eating tons of it today on Red Pill News. All right, my friends. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. Very excited to bring all of this news and information for you on this fine Wednesday afternoon, March 4th, 2026. We have so much to discuss, and I need to give a big shout out to Trump One, first of all. Thank you so much for the cookie. Smart Poker, also over on Pilled. Thank you for the can, says good afternoon, Patriots. Let me do a quick refresh over here on Getter and X, make sure that we are working. And yes, we are. All right. So yeah, if you guys didn't know, people on the thumbnail lost their primaries last night. Now, of course, Jasmine Crockett left her seat so that she could run for Senate, and that did not go well for her. In fact, she had a bit of a crash out moment last night. We are going to talk about that. Al Green, he's been suspiciously silent. I think he's probably humiliated. He, of course, was also running against another sitting Democrat. The redistricting pushed the two districts together, and Al Green is the one who lost out. So anyways, that's the way the cookie crumbles. He can go back to pimping full time. It's basically all he does. He's useless as a fart under the sheets in the middle of winter. Dan Crenshaw, he's done basically nothing except cause problems, make money, and also send threats of physical violence against people who are seeking their journalistic endeavors. And it's been pretty incredible to watch this crash out from him, too. So we've got a lot to discuss. We are going to get into it in just a moment. But first, I have to let you guys know about the sponsor of today's program. That's going to be right here, and we'll be right back in just a moment. Now, I'm sure you guys have probably heard all of the news about these miracle weight loss shots, but the troubling issue is that 2026 data has now officially revealed what should probably be a wake-up call for the people taking those shots. There was a major analysis that was done, and it revealed that once people stop taking these injections, they end up regaining about 60% of the weight they lost within that first year. And what's even worse about it is that most of the weight they gain back is actually pure fat. That's right, the muscle they lose stays gone because it leaves them with a crashed metabolism and a body that's functionally a lot older than when they started. This is why I'm pretty obsessed with today's new sponsor. It's called GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of using needles to override my system, it uses clinically studied, plant-based ingredients like metabolite to help my body boost its own natural hunger control signals. You end up getting that same fullness and fewer cravings, but without all of the scary side effects or the metabolic rebound. It supports my goals while protecting my muscles so I can actually keep the results for good. So to celebrate Valentine's Day and the year we have ahead, you can right now get 50% off with GLP-1 Elevate at trimwithredpill.com. Every single order comes with a complete support bundle with free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and free express shipping on subscriptions. So head on over to the link in the description below, trimwithredpill.com right now, to claim your 50% discount before it expires. And when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, welcome back, everyone. As you can see, we now finally have the Tina Peters official clemency photograph on screen. We are going to leave Tina Peters there, much like we did for Don Lemon. Don Lemon, it was the arrest watch. Tina Peters, it is the freedom watch. So we'll see how that goes. Now, first of all, today, I'm sure you guys all remember not that long ago, there was a huge hubbub on the social interwebs about $7,000 payments that were scheduled to go out to certain social media influencers. These were payments that had been scheduled by the government of Israel to post things that were complimentary to Netanyahu and to the nation of Israel. Well, it would appear that none of those social media influencers, despite the fact that they were exposed for accepting the grift on behalf of Israel, never actually got paid. And right now, there is actually a series of lawsuits that are beginning. Literally millions of dollars never were paid to these social media influencers. And it essentially means that they gave up any sort of, I guess, trust that maybe their audience might have had in them, taking money on behalf of a foreign nation, not registering as an agent of a foreign government, basically destroying their reputations. It is hilarious to me that the Israeli government just said, no, we're not going to pay. Well, thank you so much for the free publicity. We're not going to pay you. So now they're being sued. The only problem is because it's the government of Israel. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to get sued in a U.S. court, and then Israel is never going to pay them back. Oh, my God. It's just so ironic at the end of the day. So we have these lawsuits, which are likely going to play out, and a lot of people are going to have to talk about it. And now this means that we will officially have like a full sanctioned list of every single social media influencer that at least signed a contract to make these videos on behalf of Israel, and they never got paid. So this is the only way that they would ever be able to get paid is by exposing themselves. I am certain there are probably a whole bunch of people out there who were like, I would never do that. I would never accept money from a foreign government to shill to the American people. And now they're going to get exposed for doing exactly that. So anyways, I just thought that was hilarious, and we'll definitely be following up on that in the near future. Let me say thank you to Sean Joe for the can. Also, thank you to Filter Dog, who says, I'm really bothered about the thought that Trump might endorse Rhino Cornyn over Paxton. Well, he hasn't done it yet. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no need to allow yourself to be bothered by something that hasn't yet happened. It's completely out of your control, and we have no idea what that's going to look like. The whole thing could be a psychological operation. I'll talk more about that when we get into it. Also, thank you so much to Q Shook Me All Night Long. Thank you very much for the cookie. I really do appreciate it. Okay, now continuing on, we have this post right here from our friends over at Just the News. It appears that a Senate subcommittee is scheduling to hold hearings on ending birthright citizenship. Now, this is, of course, something that President Trump had requested through a executive order, but it is legally contendable based upon the language of the Constitution. And so we've been waiting for the Supreme Court of the United States to weigh in one manner or another, going through the legislative process through Congress. That's another way to go about it. And if we can have Congress vote on this and put it into law saying you only become an American citizen. If you're an American citizen and you're having children here, you can't just come here as a foreign citizen, have a baby, and then say, thank you for the anchor. So it gives us another opportunity to get this done and to get it done right. Now, this is going to be in the Senate Judiciary Committee on the Constitution, and it was announced yesterday. They're going to be holding these hearings, which will be next week, on ending the automatic birthright citizenship for children of illegal migrants and tourists. It never should have been that way. The hearing is now coming because obviously the Supreme Court is expected to hear this case. There's always the possibility that the Supreme Court might say, we don't want to talk about this. We are not going to even consider it, and we want the Congress and the president to go ahead and deal with it themselves. I'm really thinking that's probably not going to be the case. I think that we have enough of a conservative lean on the Supreme Court that likely this does make sense. So we don't have any speakers or anyone who's been scheduled to speak in any respect yet, but the hearing is going to be March 10th at 2:30 p.m. It may be interesting enough that we go ahead and cover it while it's live here on the channel, but more than likely, if there's any good clips, I'll be bringing them to you guys either later that day or the next day. Now, this case surrounding President Trump's executive order, which directs all federal agencies to interpret the 14th Amendment strictly through the lens that he has requested, excluding birthright citizenship to the children of illegal migrants and to tourists, is something that I would hope that they would go ahead and rule on. It is expected to be coming early this year, but we don't have a timeline, and the Supreme Court is kind of an opaque process. There have been times when there were cases that had been brought before them, people had asked for them to rule, and they just declined to do it. But this order from President Trump last year was intended, at the very least, as a means to cool down any hope that pregnant tourists or illegal aliens might have that they could come here, have a baby, show up illegally, and then drop themselves into a position where they can stick around because they've now got a brand new American bundle of joy. That way they can remain in the country. Well, at the very least, we now have people believing that there's a distinct possibility that won't happen. And so this practice has dropped off quite a bit. We do have a major problem with this among Chinese immigrants. Chinese visa holders. There have been baby farms that have essentially been broken up all around the country. So there's a big problem with this. And that's on top of all the many, many millions of illegal aliens who just showed up here and spat out a kid on the border and then said, yeah, please take care of my American family. So anyways, we want to get past that. Now, we also do have a ruling that did come through from the Supreme Court earlier today. It was a strike down of decisions by activist judges that were attempting to essentially shield immigrants and, I guess legal migrants, people who were here in this country, from deportation. And the claim, of course, being that, if we deported them, they would face persecution if we kick them out of our country where they don't have any legal right to be. SCOTUS said making these decisions regarding persecution must, in fact, be deferred to immigration agencies, which is exactly where they should have been since the very beginning. So judges outside of immigration courts are no longer going to be able to rule on these subjects in any respect. This is going to make it a lot harder for these alleged asylum seekers who seem to have claims of being persecuted back in their home countries, going before leftist judges, being represented by 501c3s that are propped up by George Soros or Neville Roy Singham, to gum up the works and stay here for years upon years, waiting for a new administration to come in. So guess what? The free ride is over. We cannot any longer take care of you. So there were a number of illegal aliens who had petitioned the Supreme Court. They had applications for asylum. It was always crazy to me that you could take these applications for asylum outside of the immigration court. The immigration court was set up exclusively to deal with cases just such as this. And of course, there were a lot of asylum cases which talked about persecution in countries where we already know exactly what's happening there. There really is no persecution. These aren't people who are political dissidents. They didn't leave because there was a new political party that took over and they were were in danger of having their lives uprooted. So they uprooted their own lives and came here so that they could get persecuted by our legal system. It never made any sense. So now they're going to go before immigration judges, immigration agencies are going to take a look at those claims. There's probably going to be a set of very stringent measures by which they're going to look at them. As an example, Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he had previously spoken to an immigration judge before he became the cause celeb of the left. And he told them that he had no worries about persecution in his own country. He wasn't worried about persecution in any other country. It was only after President Trump and the administration started the process of kicking him the hell out that he suddenly became worried about any country that wasn't the United States of America. But that's over. Enjoy your free trip back to whatever shithole country you came from, because you can no longer hang out here in the United States of America. And that, my friends, is just fine. All right, very briefly before we continue, I have a quick message from our friends on Rumble. Parents, grandparents, if you're out there listening, I have a very cool message for you. America is about to hit a major milestone. We're talking about coming up on America's 250th birthday, 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, the greatest experiment in self-governance that the world has ever seen. It is quite literally the perfect time to help your kids understand just what is so important about this country, why it matters, not just fireworks and hot dogs, but the story and the history and the tradition behind it all. So there is a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday. It's pretty honestly a great way to introduce your kids or your grandkids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what it was they were risking, why the ideas that they fought for are still relevant today. I mean, it informs a lot of what we see happening right now. This guide sends your kids back to the moment when those brave men signed the Declaration of Independence. And when they did it, they knew exactly what they were doing. They were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way that kids can actually understand and enjoy. It doesn't water it down or make it boring like schoolwork or something like that. So if you care about raising children who know where this country came from and why it's just worth preserving, why it's worth keeping protected, this is something that you're going to want to grab. And the best part is, it is completely free with this special offer. All you're doing is paying for the shipping and handling, the envelope, the stamp, boom, and it comes to you. There is nothing additional. So head on over to freeusabirthday.com. That is freeusabirthday.com. And the Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday is there for your children today. Because America's stories matter. Make sure that the next generation knows it. You can use that website, freeusabirthday.com, or you can use the QR code that you see on screen. Thank you so much to Rumble and the people over there. All right, now continuing, our next story has to do with none other than Miss Tina Peters. I saw a post on X last night from Governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, and it gave me a lot of hope. Now, there is a situation taking place in Colorado. Everybody knows what Tina Peters was accused of. She was essentially convicted of influencing a public official. They had to really go through a lot of hoops to get that guilty plea for Tina Peters. There was a lot of unfair behavior on behalf of the state prosecutors. There was the intervention of federal prosecutors. They gave incorrect jury instructions to the jury. They gave them the language of the misdemeanor charge, but then they charged her with the felony charge, which makes the entire thing completely improper from any number of angles that you look at. But what is even more egregious is that this former state senator was given preferential treatment. She was charged with the exact same thing Tina was, and she basically got a suspended sentence with a slap on the wrist. But Tina Peters, as you well know, was given 9 years in prison. So this took place last week. A former state senator, hold on, I got an eyelash in my eye. It's driving me crazy. Okay. A former state senator in Colorado was sentenced after a conviction for influencing a public servant. The statute is CRS 18-8-306. 3 counts of forgery were included along with that. Now, this is, again, very similar to what Tina Peters was charged with. It is the exact same charge that they used against Tina Peters, who was the Mesa County clerk, and she, of course, went through her ordeal back in 2024. The former state senator in question is Sonia Jacques Lewis. She was convicted on these 4 counts in a Denver district court in January, and her sentence was handed down on February 27th. So this is all very fresh. During a legislative investigative ethics investigation, then Senator Lewis submitted forged letters of support. I actually told you about this woman before her sentence was handed down. So these fake letters were allegedly written by former aides to refute the allegations that Lewis was mistreating her staff. She handed them in to the Colorado Senate Committee on Ethics, and Lewis submitted these 3 forged letters to the 5-member Colorado Senate Ethics Committee panel. Now, rather than charging her with the felony for each of these forged letters or each member that she attempted to influence, prosecutors mysteriously only went for a single count of attempting to influence a public servant alongside the 3 counts of forgery. Now, Tina Peters, she was convicted under the exact same statute. She made 1 misrepresentation to 3 public servants, but unlike Lewis, she faced and was convicted of a separate felony count for each public servant influenced, despite the identical misrepresentation. And I have to be honest, I think it's arguable whether or not Tina Peters did anything improper at all. There was a lot of brain twisting that had to go along with Tina Peters' case. So despite the fact that they were both charged under the exact same statute, Tina was given a different interpretation of that statute. There was also a wide disparity in the way that the sentence was imposed, a stark contrast when you look at it. Now, as you know, Tina Peters was given 9 years in a Colorado state prison. Walsh stated that Lewis will now pay a price for behavior that simply cannot and will not be tolerated in our community. How many years do you think that the former Senator Lewis received? If you had to guess. I'm just going to give you a moment. I want to see it pop up in the chat. We'll see. We'll see who guesses correctly. Okay, well, you know what? It's taking too long. The sentence she received was 2 years of probation, 150 hours of community service, and a $3,000 fine. Now, you'll probably remember, in addition to Tina Peters being given 9 years hard labor in a Colorado state penitentiary, they also took her everything. They took her husband. They took her reputation. They took her money. They took everything that she had from her. They left her a broken woman. But former Senator Lewis got probation, a fine, and she's got to work at the soup kitchen. That's about it. So Miss Peters, given the 8 years and 3 months for those same felony convictions, also denied a bond hearing pending her appeal. The courts fined her $10,750. These charges that Lewis got, I mean, she tried to influence and deceive a committee, an ethics committee, during an investigation, which, if she had been successful, would have allowed her to stay in government. Whereas Tina Peters, whatever she was accused of, believed she was doing her job as an elected official. Tina, at the end of the day, was attempting to ensure that records, as the Mesa County clerk, records that were in her custody were maintained per the letter of the law, both Colorado and federal statutes. Now, here's where the other distinction comes in. Of course, former Senator Lewis is a Democrat, and Democrats control the state of Colorado. In fact, they don't just control the state, they control every facet of the state, all 3 branches of government. So Tina Peters, quite literally, was persecuted by the people who hate her, who hate President Trump, who also said that if you question the results of an election, you're an insurrectionist, you're an election denier, you are doing things tantamount to treason. and they had to put Tina away. They had to stop her. I mean, I'm sure you remember in Tina Peters' sentencing hearing when the judge excoriated her and basically said that she was so dangerous they couldn't afford to allow her to remain out, and they had to stop her from speaking. So what was really interesting about it to me is that the governor, Jared Polis, posted about this on X. Now, that was not something that I had on my bingo card. But now that this is Jared Polis's, final stretch of his administration, it's become quite clear that he is starting to think about what his legacy will be. Now, of course, the president has reached out on Tina's behalf. The DOJ, numerous officials have reached out on Tina's behalf. There is an active and ongoing attempt to have her released as a part of her appeal. I think they made an excellent case for the fact that she was mistreated in so many different ways. But listen to this. Jared Polis having what is apparently a rare moment of clarity. Last week, he's gay, so I'm wondering if I should just read this in a gay voice. Last week, former state senator Sonia Jaquez Lewis was sentenced to probation and community service after being convicted of 4 felonies, including attempt to influence a public official. She made a horrible mistake, and she was wrong. I hope she learns from this and can rebuild her life. As someone who has known Sonia as a friend for many years, on a personal level, I was glad to hear she isn't going to prison, which is a hard place for anyone, no less a retired 68-year-old pharmacist. But it is not lost on me that she was convicted of the exact same felony charge as Tina Peters, attempting to influence a public official. And yet Tina Peters, as a nonviolent first-time offender, got a 9-year sentence. Justice in Colorado and America needs to be applied evenly. You never know when you might need to depend on the rule of law. Was that supposed to be a joke? This is the context that I am using as I consider cases like this that have sentencing disparities, which is why I have extended the deadline for clemency applications until April 3rd. I will be making decisions on these cases throughout the remainder of my governorship. Toodles! So here's the thing. Jared Polis's term runs essentially throughout the end of the year. So usually what governors and what presidents do is they give commutations and clemency. They give those like at the end of their term. So even if Jared Polis does end up choosing correctly and setting Tina Peters free, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Now, it may, okay? Like, I mean, stranger shit has happened. Pigs might fly. Tina Peters may end up getting her sentence commuted rather quickly. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, Jared Polis does the right thing. All right, Jared, think about your legacy. You're going to be the guy who sat there presiding over one of the most corrupt states in America with a totally corrupt state government, your Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, who actually exposed serious security-related election information on the internet for anybody to see. Nothing happened to her. She lied about it. She's also running, she's running for attorney general right now. And she's also, Eleanor 2000, it's still a state charge. Now, President Trump has made the argument that this is something he should be able to pardon because essentially they used a federal statute and she was doing work on behalf of the federal government. But that's still something that is in the courts. I mean, it's slow rolling. So President Trump has said, do this, but it hasn't happened yet. And that's just unfortunately the way the system works. You never know when you'll have to depend on the rule of law, girls. And right now, the rule of law in Colorado simply just doesn't seem to exist. So this is something we're going to have to wait on. But I also think it's something we should be putting pressure on Jared Polis for. So if any of you are on X and you want to go ahead and just tag at Jared Polis, you can reply to this tweet right here. He's got currently 2,300 replies to 892 retweets, 1.8 thousand likes. And when you go and look at it, I mean, you've got several of my friends are replying to this, and people are saying, you know, pretty much that Tina Peters needs to be released. Polis must resign. Release Tina Peters. Then you got this dick right here, Sean Smith. She didn't make a mistake. It was deliberate, and it was for personal gain. Oh, I'm sorry, Sean. I completely read that wrong. I thought you were talking shit about Tina. No, he says Tina Peters was doing her duty as an elected official. I guess I can't find somebody on here who is taking the side of former Senator Lewis or suggesting that Tina Peters needs to remain in prison. It looks like everybody is replying that Polis needs to be released. Just to take you back on a trip through time, President Trump posted on December 3rd on Truth, the sleazebag governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, refuses to allow an elderly woman, Tina Peters, who was unfairly convicted of what the Democrats do, cheating on elections, out of jail. She was convicted for trying to stop Democrats from stealing Colorado votes in the election. She was preserving election records, which she was obligated to do under federal law. She has now served more than 1 year in jail, and she's got 8 years to go. On top of everything else, she is a cancer survivor. This lightweight governor who has allowed his state to go to hell, Tren de Aragua, anyone, should be ashamed of himself. Free Tina. All right, so Sean, once again, you have my eternal apologies. Oh, gosh. All right, so hopefully we will help Tina Peters get out of prison. And hopefully these 33 scumbags will end up in prison before too long. Now, you may or may not remember, but Antifa held a rally at the University of Washington in May of last year. There was a protest. I guess they were protesting Israel. They were setting fires, and they got into a huge thing with local police. Well, prosecutors in Seattle finally, nearly a year later, have just charged 33 of those Antifa terrorists that were involved in this siege on the engineering building at the University of Washington. The group as a whole caused more than $1 million in damage to school property. And if you take a look at the pictures, I mean, it's no wonder these people are the ones who were indicted. I mean, not a one of them looks to me like a person I would be surprised to see indicted for a crime like this. Hi, darling. Thank you very much. Looks like I got a couple of packages from some enterprising young viewers. And I got a couple of letters, too. Well, hold on. Honey, would you bring me a knife? Yeah. Okay, you can just bring me my keys because I got that knife on my key. Hold on, let's take a look. I got a mailbag. Teresa in Bloomington, Minnesota. Teresa, hopefully you're listening. Let's take a look. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, gosh, Teresa, thank you so much. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. She says, Dear Zach and Lisa, thank you for all you do at Red Pill News. Enclosed donation, $60 cash. Hope you find the manatee meme as hilarious as I do. Many thanks, Miss Terry. Older, gray-haired gal hobbling around with my cane. Chuckle, chuckle. Oh, we've met at GART, I believe. And so she's got a picture of a manatee, and it says, eats nothing but sea lettuce and swims laps all day, still fat. I do think that's hilarious. I love it. Thank you for that, Teresa. Appreciate that. Miss Terry, as it were. All right. And then let me say thank you to... well, hold on. I'm actually going to wait and to see if you've got a name that you use in the chat that might be on the card. God bless and keep you, Zach and Lisa. Thank you for all you do. Warmest regards, Margaret. Well, thank you for that, Margaret. And also, thank you so much for the donation, Margaret. I appreciate it. All right, so this is a much longer letter, so I won't read that right now, but trust Margaret in North Carolina. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And my good friend Lewis, who has been sending me $10 checks since the very beginning of my show. Thank you so much, Lewis. I do appreciate you, buddy. All right, let's see what I get in these boxes. All right, so this is coming from, I think I know what this is. Oh my gosh. This is from Duke Nukem in the chat. Oh yeah, I think this is some alien related stuff, if I'm not mistaken, because he's also a huge fan of Alien and Aliens. All right, thank you so much, Duke Nukem. I will read that after the show. But he is a professional model maker and modeler. Oh yeah, it's an alien xenomorph. Oh dude, this is sweet. This is so cool. You guys, look, it's the alien. It's a plaque. It's an alien plaque from Aliens, the alien xenomorph. That is crazy looking, dude. Man, that is awesome. Thank you so much, Duke Nukem. That is really cool, bro. And then what is this? This is maybe, oh, it looks, I think maybe a chest burster. Oh no, it's just another little piece to go along with it. It is it's a victim of the, it's a magnet. It's a magnet. Cool, bro. Thank you so much. Okay, awesome. Oh my gosh, and it is our picture of Muffin and Chi-Chi from Artsy Joan. Joan, listen to me, Joan. Look at that. Wow. It's Muffin and Chi-Chi, you guys. That is so cool. That was a picture that Lisa and I took of the dogs and then sent it to Joan, and she painted it. She also painted a picture of Smokey, which is behind us. This one is big, though. I'm going to have to put this one in our bedroom or something, I think. Honey, come get this picture from Joan. Oh, that is awesome. All right. I hope you guys like. Hold on. Hope you guys like and enjoy. Fortunes to come. Thank you for all you do and bring America the truth and news. It's a full-time job and then some. May God bless you and your furry friends, past and present, always, Joan. Joan, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. There's definitely not a butt plug, guys. All right. Thank you for allowing me that momentary detour. There, look how cool it is. And she sent a certificate of authenticity as well. That is so cool. That's awesome. Thank you so much, guys. All right, back to the news. Well, before I continue, a couple of quick things here. Denise Ann, pretty sure she will not accept a pardon or clemency. She wants to clear her name, and in any legitimate courtroom, she never would have been convicted in the first place. I'm actually, I believe she would accept a pardon or clemency because Peter Tickton was instrumental. That's one of her lawyers. He was instrumental in getting President Trump to write that pardon for her. So I think that just because of how old she is, her health concerns, they just are looking to get her out for any reason. And I think that America already understands what she has lost and the fact that she never truly did anything wrong. The people who think she did something wrong, they're never going to be convinced of anything otherwise. Lee Walden says, ahoy, Zach, Miss Lisa and crew. Thanks for Tina as your thumbnail. Tina and the governor offering clemency is not acceptable to Tina. She did nothing wrong. I think she deserves justice immediately and free. I don't disagree with you, but as I said, I think that the primary concern right now is Tina's health and to get her out. I really don't believe that she would stay in. I mean, the only way that you guys, what you're suggesting would be for her appeal to be successful. And there is a possibility that that may happen before Governor Polis even offers her clemency or a pardon or something like that. Jep863 says, all those awesome pet artwork and tripod got the shaft. You know, I don't know that Nobody ever asked for a picture of tripod. I'll do a picture of tripod, and we'll have tripod there or something. You know, I would love to do a sculpt of tripod. That would be pretty cool. Anyways, we'll be following this case in Seattle as well. Okay, so now let's talk about the elections. Last night, March 3rd, primary election update. 122 Trump-endorsed candidates won their races. We had 6, what is that? Is that Iowa? Is that Iowa? Yeah, I think that's Iowa. And then also Kentucky. And then, no, that's Tennessee. That's got to be, hold on a second. I am totally confused. Is that Tennessee or is that Kentucky? Holy shit, I feel like a moron. I think, no, it's not Kentucky either. Is that North Carolina? That's North Carolina, Texas, and let me see a map of the United States. U.S. map. That is Arkansas. Okay. Yeah. Not Arkansas, North Carolina, and Texas. 105 wins in Texas, 11 wins in North Carolina, 6 wins in Arkansas. Now, of some of those people, I should have known North Carolina because I knew I was talking about Michael Whatley next. Michael Whatley, who was the former National Committee Chairman for the GOP, one of those aspects, he ran the GOP along with President Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, and Michael Whatley ran for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate in North Carolina. He will be the one who replaces Tom Tillis. Now, of course, he still has the general election, but this is a strong Republican-held seat, and so all intents and purposes, he will be the replacement for Tom Tillis. Roy Cooper, though, is the Democrat challenger. He was the Democrat governor of North Carolina. He got 758,000 votes, and Michael Whatley got 404,000 votes. Now, we had Donald Brown, who got almost 100,000 votes, but altogether, there were more Democrats who voted yesterday in the primary than Republicans who voted in the primary. And obviously, Michael Whatley won, although by a slimmer margin than what Roy Cooper won. It's interesting, despite the fact that the Democrats have so many candidates, it seems like they really rally behind people. Now, I can't tell you how many of those votes in North Carolina are lawful, legal, living American citizens. However, we do know that there was some cleanup of the voter rolls in North Carolina that took place. Whether or not it was 100%, I don't know that anybody can actually say that. But with Tom Tillis holding the seat now and having held the seat for some time, it is likely that Michael Whatley will be the winner unless we see some serious hanky-panky coming November, and I'm not holding out hope that that won't be the case. At the end of the day, I'm hoping that all of the election security aspects that President Trump has been pushing for will finally be in place by the time people go into the polling places come November. Now, also, this is a story that I was praying. I was like, please, Jesus, give us a win. This is that father that I told you about maybe a year ago. Aaron Spencer was his name. He was charged with the murder of the man who molested his daughter. Okay, this guy groomed his daughter, minor daughter, and he caught this man, and essentially, because this man used to work for the sheriff's department. In fact, I think he actually might have been the sheriff at one time in the past. He was basically protected by the system, by the sheriff's department, and by the courts. And they didn't hold this guy in the way that they should. They basically allowed him back out onto the streets so that he could once again come back and victimize Aaron Spencer's daughter. And he kidnapped this little girl from her room in the middle of the night. She was only 13 years old. Now, When Aaron Spencer discovered that his daughter was missing, he went out looking for his daughter, and he found this sicko driving away with his kid in the middle of the night. He ran them off the road, got this guy out, and the 67-year-old pedophile named Michael Fosler came at Aaron Spencer. Aaron shot and killed him, and he was then charged with felony murder for killing this guy. Well, Aaron ran for sheriff of the county where this happened, Lonoke County Sheriff in Arkansas. Now, if he is convicted, Arkansas law would bar him from holding elected office. But the fact that he won his primary and he basically beat the next closest challenger 2-1, you have to believe that the jury of his peers in Lonoke County, which is at the end of the day strongly Republican, it is highly unlikely that Aaron would end up being convicted of this murder. Now, there have actually been a number of delays in this trial. It was supposed to start earlier this year. There was some incompetence from the Circuit County Judge, Barbara Elmore. She caused these delays. The state Supreme Court was forced to step in on more than one occasion. They actually removed Elmore from the case entirely. Pre-trial hearings are scheduled for later this month. And it appears that that hearing, Spencer will now be there as the nominee for Republican as a county sheriff. The incumbent was Sheriff John Staley. John Staley was, of course, the sheriff who was in charge of the investigation, which ultimately led to Aaron Spencer being charged with felony murder. He also beat out another challenger by the name of David Bufford. So, although Aaron only got 53% of the votes, again, he got twice as many votes as Staley, and he got more than twice as many votes as Bufford. Now, there was no Democrat that was planning to run in the race, but now Spencer is going to be facing a Democrat by the name of Brian Mitchell Sr. and an independent candidate by the name of Larry Benke. So if Spencer wins the general election, then he will become sheriff. But of course, if he's convicted of murder, he will not be able to become sheriff. So I would like everybody to pray for Aaron Spencer. This guy deserves to be sheriff, and he also does not deserve to be charged and found guilty of murder. The guy who kidnapped his child deserved to be killed, and I think that he deserved to be killed the first time he took off with his daughter. So Aaron, he was a father. He was protecting his child, and he did nothing wrong. I know, I know, but there's nothing I can do. I just need to wait. Yeah, it's glitching. I know. We're going to just wait for it. I don't know why it's happening. All right. It appears that maybe it's getting better. I'm starting to see the feed look a little bit better. Okay. Let me try this. Okay, that actually did it. I just stopped the stream and then started it up again, and it looks like it's totally cool now. I just need to, I guess, maybe do that again in the future. Yeah, it's working on all the other platforms. It's just Rumble for whatever reason. Okay, good to know. Anyways, as I was saying, Aaron Spencer is a hero. This guy, Fosler, got exactly what he deserved. Not only did he victimize a 13-year-old girl, he came back to re-victimize a 13-year-old girl and kidnap her, and if he would have gotten away with it, then Lord knows what would have happened to that child. Aaron Spencer did what any father would have done. This is Arkansas, and I would have to imagine that even if he is convicted, I bet you that Sarah Huckabee Sanders would probably pardon him or, delete his conviction if it came down to that, because he does not deserve to be charged in this murder. All right. Now, next, President Trump. has made an announcement in the race between Senator Ken Paxton, Texas AG Ken Paxton and Senator John Cornyn. Now, John Cornyn had many, many millions of dollars, like $100 million behind him in this race. And Bruce, I'm not muted, buddy. It was a problem with the feed. Wait a second. Are you guys saying I'm not working on Pilled now? What the hang on just a second. I just refreshed the feed on Pilled. Let me see if that's going to work. Okay, now it's working. Refresh on Pilled. Oh. Okay. Okay, so it's working now. I don't know what the deal is. Anyways, so this race is scheduled to go to a runoff. There was a third candidate who basically had no chance of winning. He shouldn't have run in the first place. He's actually been called out by many people as running basically as a sort of vanity play, an effort to get some attention on his name. What was his name? It was like Wesley Hunt. Wesley Hunt. People are calling out Wesley Hunt. If it wouldn't have been for Wesley Hunt, I think that Ken Paxton would have run this race. In Texas, if you have, a primary and you don't get to 50% of the vote for one of the candidates, then it has to go to a runoff. The runoff will take place in May. John Cornyn is a rhino. He hasn't supported President Trump. He hasn't supported the people of Texas. He hasn't supported the America First agenda. Ken Paxton would do that. Ken Paxton is a warrior, although unfortunately I hate to see him go from the Texas AG position. He definitely would make a good senator. Now, the only thing that people are upset about is that President Trump has not come out and directly endorsed one or the other. Now, he has announced that the Republican primary race for the great state of Texas, a state I love and won 3 times in record numbers, the highest vote ever recorded by far, cannot, for the good of the party or the country itself, be allowed to go on any longer. It must stop now. He had not endorsed either Paxton or Cornyn going into this primary. President Trump does this quite often. When there is like an established candidate who's already in the position, I don't know that I've ever seen him endorse somebody who was going up against that establishment position. President Trump has a habit of betting on horses he thinks are sure bets, okay, to put it in racing terms. And normally an incumbent like John Cornyn would be a sure bet. But Ken Paxton is very popular. People of Texas seem to love him. So he says, we now have an easy-to-beat radical left opponent, and we have to totally focus on putting him away quickly and decisively. Both John and Ken ran great races, but not good enough because neither got to 50%. Now, this one must be perfect. My endorsements within the Republican Party have been virtually insurmountable. It is such an honor to realize and say that almost everyone I endorse wins and wins by a lot, especially in Texas. So President Trump says, I will be making my endorsement soon, and I will be asking the candidate that I don't endorse to immediately drop out of the race. Is that fair? We must win in November. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Now, President Trump's endorsement is all going to be based upon who he thinks is going to be able to win at the end of the day in the general election. I'm sure that they're running numbers on Paxton, and I'm sure that they're running numbers on Cornyn. Paxton is well known for fighting election fraud in Texas. Ken Paxton is 100% America First. He's a staunch supporter of President Trump. He is a conservative stalwart. Ken Paxton is also the one who filed the lawsuit in 2020 contesting the election in 4 states where Joe Biden reportedly defeated President Trump with those mysterious late-night ballot drops. But as we have all come to know, it was officially a fraud. 126 U.S. representatives supported Ken Paxton's case. 23 states joined Ken Paxton and the state of Texas in that lawsuit. The only people who seem to be supporting John Cornyn are the establishment of the GOP, the swamp creatures of Washington, D.C. Last summer, the National Republican Senatorial Campaign, which is a sort of a conglomerate of standard D.C. swamp rhinos that pretty much refuses to fund any pro-Trump candidates, they endorsed John Cornyn. Mitch McConnell has also endorsed John Cornyn. The NRSC has dumped millions of dollars into candidates who do not support President Trump and the America First agenda. So if you live in Texas, I believe you should be supporting Ken Paxton. I also believe President Trump should be supporting Ken Paxton. And I hope that the polling firms that they are using will show that Ken Paxton is easily going to beat whoever the Democrat challenger is in November. It's all going to come down to what President Trump says needs to be a hard-fought race between now and then, focusing all of the money and the attention on that race, because whomever it is, whether it's Ken Paxton or John Cornyn, the NRSC is going to put a lot of money into that race to help make sure that we can continue to keep that hold on the Senate. Ken Paxton, however, needs to be the candidate. Now, my boy Brandon Herrera, the AK guy, also has forced Tony Gonzalez into a runoff. Now, it was close last night. At the end of the day, Brandon Herrera got 43.3% of the vote. He got a larger share of the vote than he got back 2 years ago. Tony Gonzalez, again, a multi-term incumbent, received 41.7% of the vote. Brandon Herrera with 23,830. Tony Gonzalez with 22,949. So about a 900 vote difference. That is a larger margin than what was had last time around. Keith Barton, I don't know who he is, but he received 4,668 votes, or 8.5%. And Francisco Canseco received 3,551 votes, or 6.5%. So in this race, much like the Cornyn-Paxton race, there will be a runoff come May. The only difference is that between now and May, the scandal surrounding Tony Gonzalez's affair with his former aide, Patricia Aviles, it's going to get much, much bigger. Now, if you haven't been around or you haven't watched me talk about this, Tony Gonzalez, bit of a sex pest, convinced his married aide to have an affair with her husband, have an affair on her husband, and then refused to leave his wife when she fell in love with him. And then she set herself on fire after her husband found out and left the marriage, leaving an 8-year-old child who doesn't have a mother now. Tony Gonzalez has denied the affair, even though text messages have come out exposing Patricia admitting to the fact that she had an affair with her boss. It's quite clear that Tony Gonzalez was the one who was pushing for the affair, not to mention the fact that he has a wife and 6 children, and he's anti-Second Amendment, and he's anti-President Trump. He called Brandon Herrera a Nazi. The guy is bad for Texas. The only thing about it, the only thing that may hamper Brandon is that this Texas 23 is the area of Texas that includes Uvalde. And obviously there was the Uvalde shooting. So for Brandon Herrera to be a Second Amendment proponent in this area, there is undoubtedly going to be a portion of the residents there who are going to push back on Brandon simply because of that. Who knows, though? Maybe ideas and opinions surrounding the Second Amendment have maybe softened since that time. But there was a lot of anxiety in Uvalde for quite some time. So Gonzalez having this controversy about the affair, the suicide of Regina Santos Aviles, the husband of Regina coming forward, so many people covering this along with Brandon, myself, many, many other people, goes to show what type of a person Tony Gonzalez truly is. On top of his terrible voting record, we have proof positive that Tony Gonzalez is a piece of shit. That's allegedly, in my opinion, but I just got to call a spade a spade. If you are a politician who uses your position, your power, your influence to convince a married woman to have an affair with you while you're married and your wife is back home in Texas, you do not deserve to hold this office. You also don't deserve to hold the office if you don't support the Second Amendment and you don't support the agenda of the president. Tony Gonzalez was at one time endorsed by President Trump. President Trump, after the affair came out, did not repeat his endorsement and has not mentioned it. He hasn't said anything about Tony Gonzalez either. But Brandon Herrera is the candidate to beat at this point. If these other two candidates throw their support behind Brandon Herrera, he will undoubtedly hit that 50% threshold. In between now and May, there's also a distinct possibility that people who voted for Tony may hear about the scandal, may come to learn about Tony's sex pest past and the suicide of his once lover. His wife may even end up leaving him. Who knows what happens? But Brandon Herrera, I believe, is going to win. And to add to that, one of the reasons I think he's going to win is that this morning, the House Ethics Committee has officially announced an open investigation into Representative Tony Gonzalez for the affair with his former staffer and her suicide by setting herself on fire. So there will also be a report and findings and a hearing that will come out and be publicized. There have been a number of members of the Republican House who have come forward and asked Tony to drop out of this race, asked him to resign immediately. I mean, at this time, the margin that we have in the House is so slim. If Tony was to give up his seat, then that would give us just one less possible vote, even though most of the time Tony votes with the Democrats. There are times where his vote may be important, may be necessary. So between now and May 26th, the House Ethics Committee will be producing a work product talking about Tony Gonzalez's affair and the woman who committed suicide because he refused to leave his wife. And, of course, the destruction of her marriage. So keep your eyes on Tony Gonzalez and the race in Texas 23. I am very excited to see this. All right, now, Brandon Gill, who is one of my favorite members of the House, also won his primary last night. Don't know much about the race, but the fact that somebody was running against him means that people were trying to get him out. I think he's just a little bit too on the nose for the traditional Washington, D.C. swamp crew. But here is Brandon. I believe that this is after he was announced as winning his primary.
The left's open borders were, I think, most stingingly a part of a deliberate policy to influence our elections, even at the expense of American families. An attempt to flood our country with illegal aliens, to distort.
So, Eric, when Regina's death was first announced, the first thing I thought was, is it possible that Tony's connections to the cartel may have led to a hit on her? Since that time, her husband has come out. He has made the admission that he asked the Uvalde police to seal the files because he wants to protect his 8-year-old son. He said it's bad enough that he's going to go on the internet and he's going to read what his mother did. He's going to read about the fact that she killed herself. The home where they lived had security cameras. She also took a video on her cell phone of herself setting herself on fire. And she sent it to her husband. And she said, I'm doing this because you're now having sex with my best friend, my ex-best friend. So I found it very unbelievable that a woman would set herself on fire as well, because that's not normally what a woman does. And a woman is going to take some pills or maybe run a hose from the tailpipe into a closed garage or something like that. But Regina left plenty of evidence behind that she's the one who did it, and it was her decision. So, yeah, and this is all coming from her ex-husband. Her widow, pardon me, her widower. So that's the only reason that I believe the official story.
Congressional representation, to provide a pathway for them to vote, all part of a political program that was not just deeply cynical, but absolutely grotesque.
Brandon Gill is based. So based. This guy's got a bright future ahead of him. If he can just continue to vote for the people, then I think that's going to be good. Yeah, fire would be bad. Fire would be bad. Well, Spud Hill, she ruined her marriage. Her husband found out, texted all of their friends and family from her phone and said, Regina and I are breaking up because she effed her boss, Tony Gonzalez. And then he left with their 8-year-old son, and then he started dating her best friend. So, I mean, I can see it. Like, honestly, think about it. Think about it for a second. I mean, she destroyed her life, and then her husband and her best friend start dating, and her best friend is now raising her son, who's no longer in her life. And she also got fired from her job. So I honestly, I don't think it requires MK Ultra. I think that people can completely lose their minds when they completely go insane. Mrs. Watley, who's not innocent? The husband? I mean, the husband was not having an affair until Regina had an affair, and then he broke up with her. But, you know, but her kid. But, I mean, I've known a number of people who have committed suicide and left kids behind. He is Dinesh D'Souza's son-in-law. That is correct. Brandon Gill is Dinesh D'Souza's son-in-law. All right. Yeah, bitches be crazy. I'm telling you. Lisa, you know, I'm not saying you're crazy, but I'm saying you've seen crazy women. Girls, admit it. You've known women that are plenty crazy. All right. Now, we also have another win here in Texas. Former Texas Rangers baseball player and New York Yankees star Mark Teixeira won his Republican primary race last night. He also got an endorsement from President Trump. This is in Texas 21. There, with 67% of the vote counted, he was declared the winner after taking 61% of the vote. He was going up against Navy veteran Jason Cahill. Don't really know anything about him. He only got 10%. So Mark Teixeira was the odds-on favorite. So he's going to go on. He was an Major League Baseball All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, 5-time Golden Glove Award winner, 2009 World Series champion for the New York Yankees. Yeah. And he retired from baseball in 2016. He came up as a possible candidate last August after the former candidate had made the bid for Attorney General because Ken Paxton was going to be leaving. And he is likely going to win this seat come November. Oh, gosh. Yeah. So I was pitching for the New York Yankees. Anyways, Representative, honey, I would never say that to the chat, though. You don't have to say that out loud. Representative Dan Crenshaw, Eye Patch McCain, one of the greatest living members of the U.S. House of Representatives to play the stock market, has also lost his primary in a double-digit upset. He was beaten to a bloody pulp by challenger State Representative Steve Toth. Steve Toth is totally based, too. I like this guy. This was a major slap in the face, not only for the swamp, but also for Dan Crenshaw himself. He has been defeated in Texas's 2nd Congressional District. 58% of the votes reported as of late Tuesday night, with Toth leading decisively, 57.6% to Dan Crenshaw's 39.2%. Dan Crenshaw has completely destroyed any goodwill he may have had at any point in the last several years. The man just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. He had his own scandal this year. He was like hosting drunken DJ sets in his office and hitting on his staff, allegedly. That's what I heard. President Trump endorsed every other Texas House Republican incumbent running for re-election except Dan Crenshaw. So that made Dan Crenshaw the only Texas member of the GOP without President Trump's backing in a highly competitive race. Dan Crenshaw lost. Steve Toth came out well ahead. And Steve Toth, like I said, is totally based. Now, I believe that Steve Toth is still above that 50% threshold. So he's just going to go straight on to the general. Now, Dan Crenshaw, as you probably remember, former Navy SEAL, first elected in 2018. A lot of people saw his credentials, his bona fides, and they assumed that he was going to be like our man in Washington. He was President Trump's man. He was going to support America first, and I think the only thing he supported was his Charles Schwab account. I mean, the man made a tremendous amount of money in the stock market, and every time he got called out for it, he was very, very defensive. However, he was not nearly called out as often as Nancy Pelosi, which I remember the first time I called Dan Crenshaw out, and people were like, "What are you doing? He's a Republican." And I'm like, I don't care if he's a Republican. If he's a swamp creature and he is playing the market with inside information as it appears, then this mother effer needs to be called out, because this cannot be allowed. Dan Crenshaw did not support America first. Dan Crenshaw supported himself. And anytime people called him out, he was a bitch about it. He was thin-skinned. He could not take any criticism. He threatened to send his friends in the Navy SEALs after Tucker Carlson, or no, after Sean, what was his name? Is it Sean Smith? Hold on. I always forget this dude's name. I can't remember his name. Sean Ryan. Thank you very much. Sean Ryan threatened to send his friends after Sean Ryan, but he did threaten to kill Tucker Carlson too. So the guy was mentally disturbed, still is mentally disturbed. So it's good that he's not going to be there. I hope he's probably going to land on his feet. He's going to get a job as a lobbyist, or he's going to go work for one of these companies that made him a tremendous amount of money. Also, as I said, Representative Al Green, let me hear you say he lost. He lost his primary battle. Now, he was running again against a incumbent Democrat in the newly created district. He was not particularly popular. He lost by double digits as well. So Al Green will be going the way of the dodo. And again, he can go back to full-time pimping at the end of the day. He's got the cane. He's got the limp. He's got the stable of bitches, I'm sure. So Al Green is probably going to come out on top as well. Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett is now officially an election denier. Jasmine Crockett literally came out last night and accused Republicans of cheating in her Democrat primary race. Now, things changed in Texas. They recently changed it back so that you had to vote in your precinct. You couldn't just go vote anywhere. Beautiful, beautiful move, because a lot of Jasmine Crockett's voters couldn't figure that out. And apparently there was mass confusion yesterday in Texas. Now, she claims she discovered irregularities in the election. But of course, these irregularities didn't come up until after she had been declared a big loser. She left her representative seat to run for the Senate seat. She would have been the one running against, I believe, either Cornyn or Paxton, whomever it is that makes it to the general. And the guy who she was running against is a gay preacher by the name of James Tallow. James Tallow is a real piece of work. He literally is on the internet giving a sermon about why God supports abortion. And he tells this story about Mary being visited by the angel and being told that she will bear the son of the Lord on high. And the angel asks her if that's okay. You know, like, Mary, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, indicating, according to James Tallow, that Mary could have had an abortion if she wanted. Never you mind that 2,000 years ago, abortion wasn't a thing, okay? If you were having a baby, whether it's the Lord's baby or Joseph's baby, you are going to have that baby, okay? There's no question about it. My point is that James Tallow is a sick person who is preaching completely heretical doctrine and who doesn't know jack shit about the Bible at the end of the day. But He's also the one who did an interview with Stephen Colbert, and CBS chose not to air the interview because they didn't want to give equal time to anybody else in the election. It was a publicity stunt, and they ended up putting the interview out on the internet or something like that. So on Tuesday night, as these results are starting to come in, this is in Dallas County, it started to look grim for Jasmine Crockett. And hold on, hang on. If you guys will remember, this is how Jasmine Crockett launched her race for U.S. Senate. We gotta play this because sometimes I'll watch this as I'm trying to go to sleep.
How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her? She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man. She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
Crockett. I'm serious. Sometimes when I'm feeling down, I'll just pull that ad up and I'll watch it, and it just picks up my spirits. Because what kind of a moron puts that out and believes that it's going to be good for your run for U.S. Senate? An ad where you're looking pensively into the distance as the President of the United States of America calls you a low IQ person over and over and over again. I mean, this is the kind of ego and also low IQ that this woman has, that she would be totally okay with putting that out. Like, you're telling me there was nobody around her to check her ego or to check her stupid ideas, apparently? I mean, I guess maybe she only hires yes men. They're like, oh, Jasmine, oh, it's wonderful. Jasmine, it's really going to resonate with the people. They're going to hear President Trump's talking about how stupid you are, and they're going to want to vote for you. All right, so Jasmine Crockett quite literally took a page out of our playbook, except when we claim election fraud or irregularities, there actually are irregularities. Jasmine Crockett has condemned literally every person who supported President Trump, who said that there was problems with the 2020 election or the 2022 election. She's also told, before this election, she told her voters not to use Dominion Voting Systems equipment because it had been purchased by Liberty Vote. And now she's claiming, after saying that we were making up conspiracy theories, she's now blaming some type of cheating and Republican tactics for the confusion that arose at the polls. Make no mistake, the people who didn't get a chance to vote for Jasmine Crockett didn't get a chance to vote because they didn't understand the process, all right? There was this rule change that required voters to cast ballots at their assigned precincts. I've been voting since I was 18 years old, okay? I've always had to vote at assigned precincts. But rather than checking to see what precincts people were supposed to vote in before they went out to vote, they just went any place where a voting sign was. So they wandered into these polling places and they were told that they couldn't vote there. And then they had to go someplace else. So Jasmine Crockett had essentially sued to keep the polls open. She put a couple of posts out. She suggested that her voters were being suppressed. She said, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior. What, a predetermined rule change that everybody should be smart enough to figure out before voting day? You didn't think to inform your own voters that this might happen? So she said that she claimed that they were cheating, and that's why she was losing. I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure you go ahead and figure out where it is that you're supposed to vote. Stand in line. Wait in line. So she went and sued. She got a district court to agree to keep Democrat precincts open another 2 hours. And then there were people who showed up to vote after 7 p.m. And then the state Supreme Court of Texas said, bitch, please. And they struck that down, and they didn't count any of the votes. So anyways, she goes and does a speech at her victory party, and then she ended up storming off stage, basically. So I know we're going to listen to Jasmine Crockett speak, but I promise you it's going to be one of the last times you ever have to hear her voice.
So that's my news, is that we're not going to have election results tonight, in my opinion.
Well, they actually did, and she lost.
Based upon what specifically is taking place in Dallas County. Unfortunately, this is what Republicans like to do.
Just for everybody's edification, the Republicans had nothing to do with the election in the Democratic primary. Just FYI, in case you were confused, like Jasmine.
And so they specifically targeted Dallas County, and I think we all know why.
This is the other thing. This was a statewide rule. This was not just for Dallas County. Every other voter in the state of Texas, Democrat, Republican, or otherwise, also had an assigned precinct. And just, Jasmine, I'm going to throw your voters a bone. The next time you guys go to vote, they actually send you a card in the mail. And on that card, it tells you everything you need to know about like what precinct you're supposed to vote in. And then it's just like one of the easiest things in the world to go on the internet and figure out the address for that precinct. They'll also tell you the hours of voting and all that stuff. It's actually just as easy as getting an ID, which many of these people already have.
So, I want you to enjoy yourselves.
Am I not fucking streaming again? Oh my God, my OBS. Testing. Okay, now it's working again. Let me make sure that Pilled, I need to do it to Pilled again. What is the deal? Okay, so I just reconnected to Pilled. Are we working on YouTube? No, we're not working on YouTube either. And it looks like we are working on Twitter. And we're working on Getter. Everything should be good. All right, I'm back. I'm back, y'all. And I'm black, y'all.
I'm black, y'all. And I'm black, y'all. And I'm blacker than black. And I'm black, y'all.
Okay, we are back. G. Fontez says, I almost fell out of my chair laughing from your Colorado governor's impersonation. Toodles. Okay, yeah, tell everybody to refresh if it's not working. Trisha also says, I can't believe Trump even considered Cornyn as a good candidate for anything. Again, it's all down to the numbers. President Trump will oftentimes support a candidate, even if they don't agree with him, if it means that we're going to have like that tick on the calendar. Okay, now everything's working good. G. Fontez says, LMFAO, they got juiced by the juice. I just got here and I'm catching up at 2 times. No $7,000 in exposing themselves with certainty of what they've been doing for the chosen as a matter of choice. Yes. Artsy Jones says, if you have a photo of tripod, have Lisa text it to me. I wasn't familiar. Sorry. You deserve all the gifts to offer. Thanks and God bless. Okay. In that instance, Joan, I will have Lisa send you a picture of tripod. Trisha also says, speaking of Tom Tillis, so you're going to show the video of him unleashing on Kristi Noem. No, because I think that he is a clown. And that was yesterday, and I never got to it. So he's a total shill. Tom Tillis at this point has taken the mask off. He was never truly a Republican or a supporter of America First. Radio Check can't comment. Who did I offend this time? No one. Emerald Dragon. It definitely is working. However, Rumble has this thing where you can't comment too quickly. So if you comment too quickly, it'll stop you from commenting. But yeah, nobody's offended. Okay, so yeah, that's all of them. And then also over here on Pilled, let me say thank you so much to Sean Joe for 2 cookies. Thank you to No Thanks Joe. Says, thanks, Lisa and Zach. Happy midweek to you both. God bless and stay safe. Thank you. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 more cookies. Moon Baby says, thanks for the news, RP. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. Intolerant leftists. The knowing poll pads are used across 61% of voting districts. Yes, they are. And hopefully you saw the story we did the other day with Andrew Paquette. Filter Dog, Texas Senate race. Remember, Jasmine Crockett endorsed Cornyn. That's funny. Sean Joe, Tino's hate Paxton, Zach. Tino's hate. Who is Tino? People need to be clear-eyed about this now. Hunt effed Paxton. I don't know who Hunt is, and I don't know who Tino is. Filter Dog says, Democrats' attempt to halt President Trump's Operation Epic Fury has failed, 47-53. That's good news. Filter Dog, this is just rich. Jasmine Crockett just accused fellow Democrats of cheating in her primary election. That is pretty funny. Yes, let's complete Jasmine Crockett's comments here.
But I won't be back tonight because I have no idea of when we're going to get results, and I fully anticipate it won't be until tomorrow. So I love y'all too. Thank you so very much for being here. Love you down. I love you down, Dallas.
And she's gone. Jasmine Crockett, never to return. So I think it's so funny that she believes that Republicans rigged her primary. All right, now look at this, you guys. Are you kidding me? Are there no Republicans in North Carolina who were willing to run for state senate? Do you remember this woman, the niqab-wearing Muslim woman who ran as a Republican, who had only ever voted as a Democrat? She was running unopposed in the Republican primary. She was interviewed and she didn't have any articulatable conservative positions. She literally is the definition of a dark horse Manchurian candidate who slid in because no one else ran against her. Lakeisha Alston, a Muslim woman. She went viral last year for wearing her niqab in her campaign photo. She is now officially the GOP nominee for North Carolina's District 22 state Senate seat. I thought that for sure I was going to have somebody in the audience who would be willing to get into the race because you would have had a guarantee of beating this woman. Her only claim to fame is that she was the only person who was running. And because she was the only person who was running, we should not have a single unopposed race in this country. She is also, she was listed as a candidate for the Durham County Board of Elections just 2 days before the filing deadline. Nobody else was running, so she was like, what the heck? It's worth a shot. Under North Carolina's election rules, the Republican GOP primary for the District 22 state Senate was canceled because Alston ran unopposed, which made her just the automatic winner. Ballotpedia confirms she will be on the ballot as the GOP nominee in the general election, November 3rd. Her voting record is 100% Democrat. It's just crazy to me. Oh, my gosh. Oh, I actually think we have the clip of her interview, in case you guys don't remember how bad it was.
I am a Republican. I know that I have been seeing a lot of people with hesitation about the party that I choose to represent, just because, growing up, you pretty much do what your family does, what, their beliefs are as far as your party. But like I said, I am matured in my own revelation of what the Republican Party represents, and it looks like me.
Does it?
And just the ideology, the ideology of the Democratic Party. I just have gotten away from some of those narratives, and I feel that the Republicans have a better viewpoint in which the direction that the United States and North Carolina, especially Durham, should be in.
That was actually not half bad. The other questions she answered were pretty embarrassing. I mean, if she's only running because she thinks she's a Republican, because she thinks boys and girls shouldn't be competing against each other, maybe. But like, man, I cannot believe that one slipped through the goalpost. Man. All right. Now, before we transition to Jeffrey Epstein discussions, Zorro Ranch owner Don Huffines. What? God dang it. What's the fucking problem? Ugh. All right. I should come back now. All right. Now, we're good now. We're good now. Before we transition to discussion about Jeffrey Epstein, Zorro Ranch owner Don Huffines has also won his primary for the Texas comptroller seat. And you can see here, overwhelmingly, 1.1 million votes, 57.4% of the votes. So Don Huffines is going to be in the race come November. All right. Now, very briefly, before we continue, I have a quick message from our friends on Rumble. Thank you, Rumble. They can freeze your accounts and occasionally your streams, or they can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks do not protect you. They control you. And that's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. So introducing the Rumble wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold. It's real gold on the blockchain, because through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars. Each one is fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It's not just paper gold. It's not an IOU. It's real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And guess what? Even if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold bars. That is powerful. And Tether Gold can be redeemed at any time. When you support content creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using the Rumble wallet. It's peer-to-peer, outside the banking system, no permissions necessary, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. And I see that we are seemingly frozen again. So I'm going to shut off my Wi-Fi and we're going to go to my hard line and see if that helps. And testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. Okay, we are back. All right, my friends. I'm just going to start over on this. They can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks do not protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. So introducing the Rumble Wallet. It's a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can also own Tether Gold, which is real gold on the blockchain. And through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. It's not paper gold. It's not an IOU. It's real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, you can also redeem it for physical gold. That is powerful. And when you support content creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using the Rumble wallet. It's peer-to-peer, outside the banking system, no permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. Thank you very much. And hopefully we are not going to have any more issues. So I have transitioned off of Wi-Fi to just go only to my hardline connection. Man, there's no problems for the last hour on YouTube. That's so annoying. All right. For some reason, it's just Rumble and Pilled that apparently seems to have the problems. And I am rebooting the stream on Pilled. I don't know why. The stream that's going to Pilled is the same stream that's going to YouTube. It seems to be a problem with my multi-stream. So Dang, that is just really annoying. Getter seems to have been fine all night. X seems to have been voting fine all night. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to continue on, and hopefully I don't have to worry about it anymore. All right. So, Jeffrey Epstein, it appears that we have caught both Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton lying in their depositions, which is, as I said, one of the reasons it was so important we got each of them under oath, because their collective answers would ultimately clash against the known information that's being collected over the years, not just in terms of the official record as it pertains to the Epstein files, but also the on-the-record testimony that people were going to be able to give or that they were going to be able to refer back to from years past. All right. And it looks like we are freaking, yeah, again. Oh, God dang it. All right. Well, considering the fact that we're working on YouTube, everybody might need to go over to YouTube because I don't think so. I mean, it shouldn't be a problem at all, because we have 5 gigabytes of up and down. I mean, I could reset the router. How about this, guys? I'm just going to reset my my internet. So don't go anywhere, and I'll be back in just a moment. All right. So, let's see if this works. All right, you guys are going to have to let me know in the chat if I'm back, because it says that I'm no, now it says that I'm not streaming. What the fuck? What? Disconnected from server. What the fuck? No. What is going on? All right, so it says I'm streaming. I can see myself in Rumble Studio. And I don't think Pilled is working. For whatever reason, Pilled is not working. But Getter appears to be working. Twitter appears to be working. No, Twitter does not appear to be working. Twitter is done. Okay. I am working again on Rumble. Lisa, can you tell me? Okay, YouTube appears to be working, but Pilled and X do not appear to be working. I'm sorry for people over on Pilled. I don't think that I'm going to be able to make this one work. Let me see. Is there like a button like I can refresh the... No, there's no refresh button or anything like that. Yeah, there's nothing I can do over on Pilled. Sorry about that, guys. But we are going to go ahead and finish the streams over here on all of the other platforms. I will talk to the people on Pilled and see if there's something that maybe they can add to fix that. Okay. All right. Anyways, let me get my chats back up on screen. Okay. So yeah, as soon as I closed my stream, I got a notification that there was a big update on my computer, And I had to do that, and everything appears to be good now. All right. So, yeah, what an extremely frustrating day. Absolutely. Okay. Anyways, looks like I do have a couple of Rumble rants I should pull up here. First of all, Emerald Dragon says, "God damn, Dan Scavino, take it easy on throttling my guy. You're treating his internet connection all wrong." eGrab4 says, "I switched to YouTube to watch the show and had my first experience with Rumble ads, QR code not showing up. It was so weird. Came over here to tip you since I can't on YouTube. Thanks, Lisa, Zach, and the pups. eGrab, thank you so much for that." Jep863 says, "Zach keeps waxing his 28K modem, trying to make it go faster." So, anyways, oh my God, it's doing it again. All right, you guys, I think that maybe I should just end the show because, this does not appear to be getting any better. And what do you want to bet that there is probably an update on OBS too? Nope, there isn't an update on OBS. Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys. We're going to go ahead and just, we'll call it a day. We'll call it a day there. Unless, actually, if everybody wants to go to YouTube, YouTube is actually working. What a shithole. Okay, so... people on YouTube, I'm going to send the link to Rumble over to them. Actually, it appears to be working again on... No, it doesn't. Everything is still shit on Rumble. No, I'm back. Okay, well, here's the thing. If you guys want to make sure that you continue to see the show, then I guess you can go to YouTube, or you can just hang out over here on Rumble and put up with the inconsistency of it all. But let's talk about Epstein, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. As I was saying, one of the reasons I was so excited that they were going to be testifying under oath is because they would be forced to perjure themselves. They were either going to have to plead the fifth or they were going to have to perjure themselves. Now, of course, they were not going to be caught dead pleading the fifth, which meant that they were undoubtedly going to have to lie about a number of things. One of those things was, of course, their relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, a number of people have now been subpoenaed to come in and testify after Bill and Hillary Clinton's testimony. That includes some fairly close confidants of the Clinton family. One of those people is going to be Ted Waite. Now, Ted Waite was Ghislaine Maxwell's date at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. So they are going to be asking him to sit down for a transcribed interview, also under the penalty of perjury. They're going to have to ask him about what his memory of Chelsea Clinton's wedding was. If you'll remember, Hillary Clinton said Ghislaine was Ted Waite's +1. So they didn't directly invite her. So they need to ask Ted, what does he remember about Chelsea's wedding? What about Maxwell's invitation? Was there an invitation for you, or was there an invitation solely for Ghislaine Maxwell? Or were you both invited and you just decided to come together? They're going to want to know if there were any conversations that were had. Did Hillary Clinton speak with Ghislaine Maxwell at this wedding during the reception or during the ceremony? Hillary, again, under oath, denied inviting Ghislaine Maxwell or even knowing that she was planning to come to this wedding. She also claims she never had any direct interactions with her at the wedding or before or during or after. And she said that she was merely someone who was brought by someone else. She didn't know who was even attending this wedding until she saw a photo of the wedding guests very recently, according to Hillary. Now, Chelsea Clinton, of course, coordinated the guest list with her mother. That has been on the record for quite some time. Now, Chelsea has not yet been asked to testify. I would imagine it would probably be wise to bring her in as well. Also, one of the things that came up during this testimony in regards to Hillary and Ghislaine's friendship or whatever was the question of whether or not Ghislaine came to other social events. Now, Hillary Clinton swore under oath she had no memory of Ghislaine Maxwell ever coming to her personal residence at Chappaqua. Chappaqua is the location in New York where Hillary Clinton operated her private, insecure bathroom server in her home there in New York. Now, she said If Ghislaine Maxwell came to her house, she was not present if any visits occurred. This is a direct conflict with Ghislaine Maxwell's questioning and testimony to the DOJ. If you'll remember, when Ghislaine Maxwell testified before Todd Blanche, she was asked about her relationship with Hillary Clinton. The DOJ asked if that was the only time that she had met Hillary Clinton, meaning the wedding, Chelsea's wedding. And Maxwell said, I went to the house in Chappaqua a few times. A few means at least 3, if not more. The DOJ asked, and why did you go to the house? Maxwell answered, I was invited as a friend. That's because Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and Ghislaine Maxwell were friends. They had a long-standing and ongoing relationship. So right there, numerous times, we have lies having been told by Hillary Clinton. The testimony of these upcoming people will also further impeach them. Now, here's an interesting thing. The FBI seized 2 packed suitcases from Jeffrey Epstein's longtime accountant, a man by the name of Richard Kahn, in 2019. Not so necessarily interesting that they took suitcases, but it was what was inside those suitcases. Those suitcases were full of binders, full of CDs. Those CDs, I would have to believe, were probably part of Jeffrey Epstein's huge blackmail collection. Videos and photos that likely had been captured at any number of his properties throughout the United States and around the world. But the other thing is that Richard Kahn allegedly had multiple passports that were in those suitcases. He also had large amounts of cash, but interestingly enough, he also had a badge identifying him as an agent of the U.S. Treasury, a U.S. Treasury badge. Now, we know this because we have the receipt for property, which was given to him by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Kenzie Fam, thank you so much for the $5 on Rumble Wallet, saying, for keeping on, keeping on. I really do appreciate it. And G. Fontez drops $1 and says, woohoo, 5x5. Thank you for that. Appreciate you being here. All right, so here in the receipt for property, we've got 2 black binders full of CDs, a red box with a metal bracelet, U.S. Treasury badge. Now, obviously, because this is only a receipt for property, we don't have any additional information, but that's unusual that he would have that because, to my knowledge, Richard Kahn was an employee of the U.S. Treasury. We also had the U.S. passport and 4 additional U.S. passports. He also had an Australian passport, a maroon case with black and gold watch, black wallet, brown case with varied jewelry, black box with a something journal box, large envelope full of cash, white chase envelope with cash, 2 cufflinks, various cufflinks, red wallet with euros, cufflinks in a black box, 1 large square diamond ring, a diving bag, I think it says, 2 black hard disks, gold cufflinks, and another box full of CDs. Then in the other suitcase, he had a blue box with diamonds, jewelry box with cash, dollars and euros, 4 binders, again, with various CDs, another yellow envelope full of cash, more diamond cufflinks, and a Richard Mille watch. This is July 11th of 2019. This is just prior to Jeffrey Epstein's second case kicking off with his arrest and his murder. All right. So it sounds to me like Richard Kahn was looking to flee the country, and he took with him probably everything that he needed to get the hell out of Dodge and disappear. Now, right here is a photograph showing a bunch of items that came out of Jeffrey Epstein's safe. Again, many jewelry boxes full of cash. We had additional CDs, binders, hard drives. This is exactly the same type of thing. So Richard Kahn, as a longtime accountant, seems to have had more information than simply being Jeffrey Epstein's money man. Here is Richard Kahn himself right here. Don't know much else about Richard, but we will continue to go ahead and do that. Now, you can see here it's actually illegal to have the official badges of an agency of the federal government, but to not actually be an employee of the federal government. So I don't know that Richard Kahn was ever charged with anything. But here are some additional photos that we can see here. Some of the binders full of CDs. Again, wallets, various hard drives. And this was in Jeffrey Epstein's safe. You can see here they must have had to blow it, or they had to drill in to be able to break through the lock. I've never seen these particular photographs, but they were part of the release that came out from the government with these 3 million plus files. And just looking to see if there was anything else interesting that somebody had dropped in here. All right. Now, this is actually a pretty good tool right here. Somebody put together a sort of mapping tool, which it literally blueprint of Jeffrey Epstein's financial connections. $2.1 billion in Epstein financial records. And it goes through every single bank that processed each of those financial transactions and even the people that money was coming and going to. U.S. Treasury, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Department of Justice. Take note, because this appears to be the work that was never done in the past, or at the very least, wasn't done and followed up upon. But it appears that Jeffrey Epstein had accounts with Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Bank of New York Mellon, and Julius Baer. Then it also includes the various shell companies that Jeffrey Epstein had been doing business with and owned portions of or owned all of them. We have the Southern Trust Company, Southern Financial LLC, Hayes Trust, Gratitude America, Plan D LLC, Financial Trust, Butterfly Trust, Epstein Interests, JEGE LLC, and NES LLC. Then you have operators. These are people who are going to be moving money for Jeffrey Epstein. Darren Indike, Eileen Alexanderson, Richard Kahn, who we just spoke about, Lyle Casriel, Melanie Spinella, Leslie Groff, Halperin, Scott Stackman. And then you have key people where money was coming and going. Leon Black being the number one person doing financial transactions with Jeffrey Epstein. Also Deborah Black, Ghislaine Maxwell, Brad Weschler, Joichi Ito, Leslie Wexner, of course, Jeffrey Epstein, and Larry Vasaki. Now, this is quite literally a map of exactly where the money was coming and going from. So you can see Jeffrey Epstein's Deutsche Bank account, money coming in from Leon Black, going through these various people, and then making its way to Jeffrey Epstein. But Leon Black was transferring money directly to Southern Trust, to the Hayes Trust, and Plan D, but also money coming and going from Jeffrey Epstein's Deutsche Bank account. You can go to his Deutsche Bank and you can see where the money is flowing out to, and again, where it's coming in from. Same with JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Bank of New York Mellon, which appears to only have money ties to the Southern Financial, and then Julius Baer. This was a $7 million account over on its own with nobody having any ties to. So this is a really cool financial tool right here. And I would just suggest that this is probably something you guys want to go ahead and have as a tool for you to look into in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this link out. All right. And okay, so Pild is not working. Okay. Next. Sorry, because I had to reboot my computer. I'm going to have to wait for everything to reload when we get in here. All right, so as I mentioned, James Comer and the Oversight Committee have announced a series of additional depositions. These are all people who will be, again, directly tied to Jeffrey Epstein. 7 more people have been announced, but it sounds like this is only the beginning of where these interviews are going to continue to go. By no means is this exhaustive or finalized. There will be additional people likely who get called in for on-the-record depositions under oath. It would appear that we've got Bill Gates, Kathy Rumler, Leon Black, Leslie Groff, Sarah Kellen, Ted Waite, and Doug Band. Now, everybody knows Bill Gates. Obviously, we know why he'd want to come in. Kathy Rumler, if you don't remember, she was the person who Epstein seemed to communicate with the most, and she was counsel to Barack Obama. She also had a position that Jeffrey Epstein set her up with at a huge bank, investment bank, Goldman Sachs. She recently had to leave her position. Leon Black, obviously, largest money transactions between Jeffrey Epstein and any one single person. Leon Black, Apollo Wealth Management, many different terrible claims of abuse against Leon Black. Leon Black, Jeffrey Epstein, and others worked to discredit the claims of accusers, and spent a lot of money doing so. Leslie Groff was one of Jeffrey Epstein's assistants. Sarah Kellen is now publicly identified as a victim, but it seems likely that Sarah Kellen could also be categorized as an abuser herself. Ted Waite, not real familiar with Ted Waite, but Doug Band was pretty much Bill Clinton's right-hand man for a very long time. And humorously, during Bill Clinton's testimony, he was asked about an email that detailed Doug Band's sexual prowess. I believe it was Ghislaine Maxwell who sent an email to him telling him what a stud he was and said that he was hung like a horse, and they made Bill Clinton read that out loud, and Bill Clinton seemed to get a real kick out of it. Now, each and every one of these people have been scheduled for a different date. And so should be very interesting as we get these interviews down and see what these people know and what they continue to say about each other. Now, we also have some information coming from the fraud cases in Minnesota, because earlier today, governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, and the AG of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, were testifying before Congress, and there are some pretty incredible clips that I have to play for you. Now, you might remember the Feeding Our Future scam many months ago. While a portion of that trial was going on, a person who would have been a defendant or a associate of one of the defendants had attempted to bribe a juror. There was $200,000 that were set aside to buy this juror to get them to find the Feeding Our Future defendants not guilty. And the woman who was sent to give the $200,000 for the juror skimmed $80,000 off the top and ended up coming up with $120,000. That juror, thank God, went to the authorities, and the person who arranged for the bribe and the woman who gave the bribe were both indicted. Now, the person who actually attempted to commission the bribe has just been found guilty, and he's going to be spending 5 years in prison. Take a listen.
One of the people who tried to bribe a juror during the first Feeding Our Future trial is going to prison for 57 months, nearly 5 years. Abdul Karim Farah wasn't even on trial, but his two brothers, Saeed and Abdiaziz Farah, were accused of stealing $47 million. They got Abdul Karim to help them with the bribe. As the jury was about to deliberate, Abdul Karim conducted surveillance, spying on juror number 52, figuring out where she parked. They targeted her because she was the youngest juror and the only juror of color. And a letter that the suspects wrote spells out that they wanted her to convince other jurors the government is racist and targeting them for fraud because they're Somali. Abdul Karim then drove the co-defendant Ladin Ali to the juror's home, first buying a screwdriver at Target to remove the license plate. Then he recorded a video of her dropping off a bag filled with $120,000 cash at the juror's doorstep.
We are back on Pilled. I got it to work.
He sent that video to his brothers as proof of delivery. The juror immediately reported the bribe, and when Abdul Karim found out, he deleted the video and the Signal app he used to send it. At his sentencing hearing, Abdul Karim claimed he didn't know the woman he was asked to stalk was a juror, and that he didn't know he was driving Ali there to deliver a bribe. His attorney described him as blindly loyal to his brothers. The judge didn't believe that, though, handing down the max, which is what the prosecution asked for. The judge saying that's warranted to discourage others from attempting the same crime. Abdul Karim is the first of the bribe suspects to be sentenced for that particular crime. I'm Lou Ragoose. Follow for more news.
Oh, it's so good to see these people actually go down for the crimes they're committing. Absolutely incredible. All right, now, During today's oversight hearing, there were some fairly incredible clips that were given. Now, the Republican members of the committee were asking all of the right questions. They had as much information as they possibly could, and they made Tim Walz and Keith Ellison look like criminals. And it should probably not surprise you that the Democrat members of the committee had a problem with the fact that they were there to investigate fraud. Take a listen to this. A Democrat on the committee seems to question why it is they're there. Why would we even be talking about this?
Recognize Ms. Ansari.
Mr. Chairman, it's outrageous that this is what we're choosing to spend our time on the Oversight Committee. At the first one...
Fraud?
At the first one, yes, fraud, because let's talk about fraud.
Yes, it's outrageous that we would seek to investigate fraud that's taken place in Minnesota. Of course, we've talking about many billions of dollars in Minnesota. One of the great interactions was with Representative Jim Jordan. He totally tore Tim Walz a new asshole. Jordan was pressing Walz on the Feeding Our Future fraud scandal. This is that $250 million scandal we were just mentioning just a moment ago. During the COVID pandemic, the defendants in the Feeding Our Fraud scam essentially ran fake food kitchens for children. They billed the federal government. The state of Minnesota did no oversight to ensure that these people were not scamming us. At least 79 defendants have been charged, and there are still more who are being charged. Walz and Ellison allowed this fraud to operate in their state. Maybe they were receiving kickbacks. Perhaps it was just so that they could protect this very important Somali voting bloc. But one of the conspirators has even named Tim Walz, claiming that both he and Attorney General Ellison were fully aware of the scheme way before the feds knew that there was an investigation that needed to be open. Walz actually got caught lying by a judge in 2022. He claimed that the judge had ordered the state of Minnesota to resume payments to this program, and they had previously been suspended due to serious deficiencies that had been identified with people within the state government that were looking at fraud and trying to stop it from happening. So Walz told the press back in 2022 that the payments were halted due to fraud concerns, but then they were ordered to be restarted by Ramsey County District Court Judge John H. Guthman. That prompted the court to actually issue a statement. They put out a press release, and they completely debunked Tim Walz's claim. As the public court record and Judge Guthman's orders make plain, Judge Guthman never issued an order requiring the Minnesota Department of Education to resume food reimbursement payments to Feeding Our Future. The Department of Education voluntarily resumed payments and informed the court that Feeding Our Future resolved the so-called serious deficiencies that prompted it to suspend payments temporarily. The Minnesota court, under Judge Guthman, seems to be pretty clear on that. But when he was pressed on this lie, Tim Walz testified, my understanding was that the agency believed that the court had required them to make those payments. And he continued to pretend to be ignorant and deny the judge's direct claim debunking of Tim Walz's statements. And Jim Jordan grilled him on this. Now, Jordan also questioned Tim Walz in regards to a former fraud investigator who was working in the Attorney General's office. They told the New York Times earlier this year, there is a perception that forcefully tackling this issue might cause political backlash among the Somali community, which is, of course, a core voting bloc. Now, Walz told Jim Jordan, I don't know who Kayesh Megan is. And he went on to deny this claim that Megan had made about the decision to not stop the fraud being politically related at all. And, of course, 85% of the people indicted in the Feeding Our Future scam are Somalis. That's a key voting bloc that everybody knows the Democrats need to hold on to if they're going to continue to win elections in the state of Minnesota. And that is what drove the whole thing. So let's go ahead and listen to this beautiful line of questioning. And I just need to get past this commercial, apparently. Okay.
The House Judiciary Committee Mr. Jordan from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor, why didn't you tell the truth? Why didn't you just tell the truth about the Feeding Our Future program? This program, my understanding, received $3 million the first year. Within a couple years was getting $200 million of taxpayer money. Whistleblowers raised concerns. As the chairman said, auditors raised concerns. Everybody raised concerns. March 30th, 2021, the payments are stopped. And a little over a month later, the payments are restarted. Why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments?
Well, Chairman, we did tell you. And Feeding Our Future grew because of the pandemic. And
I didn't ask that question. I said, why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments? The payments stopped because there were concerns, obviously, or wouldn't stop the payments. Then they're restarted a month later. What was the reason for restarting the payments?
My understanding was the agency believed that the court had required them to make those payments.
He is already well aware of the rebuke from the court itself. I mean, this was 4 years ago that the court corrected the record. Tim Walz knows that he's lying right now. Like, I can't believe that he is this stupid. If you go back to the election of 2008, Barack Hussein Obama chooses Joe Biden because he's dumber than he is. Joe Biden in 2020 chooses Kamala Harris because she's dumber than he is. But the dumber they get, the dumber they have to be. And Tim Walz is obviously the stupidest person of this train of stupidity.
That was false, wasn't it? You repeated that. You said that, didn't you? You said that's why the reason you said the reason you restarted is because the court ordered you to do so. Is that right?
I don't believe that is settled yet, to the best of my knowledge.
Well, I think it is, because the court did something that I don't know if I've ever seen it. They issued a statement saying you were wrong in what you were saying. This is from the court. It says, Feeding Our Future versus Minnesota Department of Education, correcting reports and statements by Governor Tim Walz concerning orders issued by the court. Here's what the judge says. Governor Tim Walz told the media that the Minnesota Department of Education attempted in payments to FOF because of possible fraud, but that Judge Guthman ordered payments to continue in April 2021. Next sentence. That is false. So you said something that wasn't true. He further states this, Judge Guthman, the court says this, Judge Guthman never ordered the Department of Education to resume payments to Feeding Our Future in April 2021 or at any other time. So I want to know, why didn't you tell the truth?
Congressman, the attorneys at the Department of Education interpreted that differently. Both of those judges are no longer on the bench, and I think that interpretation.
The very first sentence, the first 7 words. This is not some unnamed source talking to the New York Times. This is not some anonymous source talking to whatever your Minnesota Star Tribune or whatever your paper is. This is the court speaking. First sentence, first 7 words. Due to inaccurate statements by the governor, Ramsey County District Court judge has issued and authorized this following news release. That's pretty straightforward. So the court's lying?
I can't tell you, Congressman, but the interpretation
somebody's lying. Somebody's lying, because you can't say the court ordered you to restart the payments, and then the court says we didn't order you to restart the payments. So either you're lying.
Jojo Guns, thank you for dropping some memberships. 1 membership. Appreciate you.
Or the court's lying. And I'm just asking you, which one is it?
I just simply know what the attorneys at the agency believed, that it was a misinterpretation. And I would note that those payments.
Could it be you were trying to hide behind the court, Governor? Could that maybe be the reason why you issued the statements you did and why the court had to do something you never see done before? They issue a press statement saying you're wrong. The governor is wrong. His statement is, their words, not mine, false. Could that be the reason?
That was not the interpretation of the attorneys. And you know, court work, you can appeal those, Congressman, as you well know. I'm sure.
Is it all about politics, Governor?
There was nothing to appeal because that's not what the court said. They never said it at all. I can't believe this guy is digging his heels in. I pray to God they charge Tim Walz, because this man deserves to go to prison.
No, it's about taking care of our people, which Minnesota does better than anyone else.
$3 million. The behavioral intervention program went from $3 million to $400 million in 5 years. The housing stabilization went from $2.6 million to $104 million. The integrated community supports went from $4.6 million to $170 million in 3 years. And this is unbelievable what's happening, and you're trying to hide behind some pretend court order, some court order that didn't exist. Governor, who's Casey Magan?
I don't know who Casey Magan is.
Well, I'll tell
He knows who Casey Magan is. He knows exactly who Casey Magan is.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Magan is a Somali American and a fraud investigator in the guy beside you's office, in the Attorney General's office. And here's what he said. There was a perception that forcefully tackling this issue might cause political backlash among the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc. Did that have anything to do with this whole fraud scheme that went on in your state, Governor?
It did not, Congressman.
Did not. So you're saying Mr. Casey Magan is lying too?
You sure about that?
You're the only one telling the truth in the whole state. Mr. Magan, who's a fraud investigator at the Attorney General's office, says it's politics. The court said
I couldn't speak for Mr. Magan. You asked me a question.
I know. I'm asking.
And I said no when you asked me the question.
I'm saying Casey Magan said just the opposite.
I don't know.
So the court's wrong and Casey Magan's wrong. You're the only guy right. How many people have been indicted in your state right now? Do you know, Governor?
I don't have those numbers with me.
You don't? 98 people have been indicted. You happen to know how many are Somali American?
I don't. We don't investigate or prosecute people based on ethnicity, religion.
Neither do I. We shouldn't do that. But Mr. Magan is a Somali American who just said that the court, one of the concerns was this is a core voting bloc. And I just want to know if you know how many of the 98 people who have been indicted in your state are Somali.
I don't. Their ethnicity is not my concern.
85% of the people indicted were Somali American in key voting bloc. And I think that's what drove this whole thing.
Because you'd be in jail.
Yes. That is exactly why Tim Walz is protecting. Like, he knows, of course, nobody is being indicted based upon the fact that they are Somalian, but it's pretty notable that it just so happens to be the Somali community in the state of Minnesota who is driving the fraud. Now, Representative James Comer also had a wonderful line of questioning. It really made Tim Walz and Keith Ellison just completely expose them.
Governor Walz, you were inaugurated as governor on January 17, 2019, and have served in that role through 2 terms.
Also, thank you so much to Renee. She says, thank you very much for not stopping and for fighting for us. $5 run for Zak, everyone. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Ever since, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
During the time period 2019 and 2020, while you were serving as governor, isn't it true that state auditors and officials raised concerns about fraud and vulnerabilities in programs overseen by your administration?
I can't confirm that, but I'm assuming we have always ongoing OLA.
I'll take that as a yes. Those warnings were communicated to senior officials in your administration, including yourself, correct?
I can't speak if it was directly.
I think the correct answer to that would also be yes. Despite those...
This is also wonderful because James Comer already knows the answer to all of these questions. The investigation has already been done. Earlier today, before Tim Walz and Keith Ellison appeared before this committee, the Oversight Committee released a full report on the fraud in Minnesota. So they already put their findings out there. They already know everything. And again, every single time that Keith Ellison or Tim Walz refuses to answer the question honestly, they may be placing themselves in a perjury trap. I hope that that's what's happening.
Warnings, you did not order a broad stop payment or suspension of payment in any program at that time, correct?
We're not going to stop payments of feed children until we have the proof that things happen. In 2019, we did start taking action. I went to the legislature.
Okay, Governor Walz, when fraud concerns were raised early in your tenure in the Child Care Assistance Program, did your administration stop payments at that time?
The Child Care Assistance Program and
the answer is no. When fraud concerns were raised...
Would you like me to answer or not, Chairman?
Well, it's yes or no.
I want you to help.
You've already answered the question. You said you didn't ever stop payments, and that's what the problem is, and that's what the Democrats are complaining about. Oh, my gosh, Trump stopped payments. Well, my God, you lost billions to fraud in Minnesota. That's what this hearing's about.
Mr. Chairman,
you didn't stop payments because you didn't want to rock the boat. And when fraud concerns were raised...
Chairman.
When fraud concerns were raised in Medicaid, home and community-based services, did your administration stop payments? No, you did not. when fraud concerns were raised in non-emergency medical transportation? Did your administration stop payments?
Chairman, if I could mention what a stop payment meant by what the administration did last week is 400,000 children without health care. Are you stopping payment if one person?
We believe that's your fault and the Attorney General's fault because you do nothing about fraud, even though everyone in America sees
our Medicare error rate is lower than your state.
Fraud. You have been defrauded. You have not been good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And the Democrat position is, well, keep the money flowing. The American taxpayers have had enough.
I think that's a fair
characterization. They want their taxpayer dollars spent wisely. We all support social programs.
That's not a fair characterization.
But if you're going to waste the money to fraudsters, then we have to stop and recalculate.
We're not. We're putting them in jail when we can, Chairman. And some of these programs are crafted in such a way that there's a procedure to follow. And I'm with you. $1 is too much. I don't think there's a lot of difference here if you want to help us get at this. The question is it a sledgehammer? Is it a scalpel? I understand there's no political upside.
Well, let's get into what we've talked.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Tim Walz is not fine. Brian Murphy says, $5 smackers for the Zak man. I remember when he was a white fella who wore a flannel. Stay awesome, Zak. Thank you for that. Somebody popped into YouTube and said, God, I thought this channel was gone. Last time I was here, this guy was young and white. And that is true. Okay. Now, we also have another incredible line of questioning right here. Tim Walz confronted over the reality of the third world Somali voting bloc totally leeching off the state of Minnesota and defrauding the American people.
Mr. Walz, do you believe the 70,000-strong Somali community as a whole has made a positive impact on your state?
I do.
So you'd be the opinion, fair to say, that the Somali community has successfully assimilated and is making Minnesota better?
Yeah, I believe they're on that path, okay. Yes.
I'm just curious by what metric you'd come to that conclusion. I just looked at some hard data. And do you have any idea what percentage of the native-born Minnesotans, all races, live in poverty in your state right now?
I don't have specifically.
I'll share it with you. It's 8%. For the Somali community, it's 52%. How about receiving food stamps?
I don't know.
All right, I'll run it down with you. It's 7%, and then in the compared to.
Did you hear somebody in the room started laughing? I'll run it down for you, Tim.
I don't know. All right, I'll run it down with you. It's 7%, and then in the compared to 54% in the Somali community, and then don't have at least a high school diploma. For all Minnesotans, it's 5%. Somali community, it's 39%. One family member at least on Medicaid, it's 18% for Minnesota, 73% for the Somali community, and receiving welfare of some form, it's 21%. And that's 81% for the Somali community. Governor, do you happen to know what the percentage is of all those who have currently been charged in this staggering social services fraud scheme were native-born Minnesotans? What percentage?
I do not have that.
I think it was 85 out of 98, which comes out to 13% Minnesotan and 87% Somali Minnesotan. So I think this is an instance, perhaps, of where woke gets slapped by data. Governor, there's been billions stolen over 7+ years right under your nose, and really there's only two explanations. It's either you were in on it or you weren't smart enough to see it. It's either criminal negligence or wild incompetence. And the only way this kind of fraud can reach this scale is if there's people in power that are colluding and collaborating and willfully blinding themselves to the realities around them. And in oversight, when we do investigations, it's rare for us to have whistleblowers because they face retribution and punishment and resentment, and they can be ostracized, and it's difficult and it's uncomfortable, and sometimes it's even dangerous. So when we have when we're having an investigation and we have even a couple of whistleblowers, it's very valuable to us because they provide invaluable insight. Do you have any idea how many whistleblowers are working from Minnesota or working with the Oversight Committee?
I do not. We have our own strong protections in the OLA, the independent.
Well, it's 30. I mean, I haven't seen that in 5+ years in Congress. 30. Governor, on September 16th, 2020.
Yes. Tim Walz appears to have not prepared for this hearing in any respect, or he just knows that he can't answer honestly. It's your choice. You tell me. Warrior Mima says, thanks, Zach. Glad you came back. And somebody in the chat had asked, why is the YouTube chat not on screen? Because normally I don't have enough room for the YouTube chat. But now that Pilled is not working, I'll go ahead and throw the YouTube chat up there. So do me a favor and chat over on YouTube. Okay, now we also have another excellent clip here. This time, Clay Higgins, another one of the people that I really do like in the House of Representatives, takes on Keith Ellison and pushes him on why are we not seeing prosecutions of more people in the state of Minnesota? Tell me, Keith Ellison, as the #1 law enforcement agent of your state and the person who, for all intents and purposes, should be prosecuting literally thousands upon thousands of people in your state. Why are you not doing that?
So you have the authority to lead your state's effort to respond to this massive fraud at the state level from within the healthcare realm, where government money is being stolen at very, very high levels, unprecedented levels in your state. Are you leading that effort for the state of Minnesota? You're addressing it. Are you leading it?
Turn your mic on, moron.
Are you leading the effort?
We are leading the effort to prosecute Medicaid fraud in Minnesota.
I'm not talking about Medicaid fraud. Don't hide behind that. You have the authority to prosecute anything criminally that the governor asks you to. And this thing is big. I'm giving you an opportunity, sir. Are you leading the criminal investigative effort into this massive fraud across the board in the healthcare spectrum in the state of Minnesota or not?
We are following the law. And
you are not leading. You're not leading. I'm going to say, Mr. Chairman, that the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota should resign.
Oh, yes, he absolutely should resign. Because clearly, as we already know, Keith Ellison was working with the Feeding Our fraudsters. He stopped investigations. He literally played interference for these people. Now, Tom Emmer, also, who is a representative from the state of Minnesota, Tom Emmer has a particular horse in this race because, of course, it's his state. Here we go.
If we can agree on at least one thing today. Today's hearing is titled Oversight of Fraud and Misuse of Federal Funds in Minnesota. Can we agree that this fraud is a serious thing, Governor Walz? Yes or no? Can we agree on that?
Yes, any fraud is serious.
Thank you. Because it's interesting that you and I agree that it's a serious thing, considering the man sitting next to you, your Attorney General Keith Ellison, just 2 months ago said, quote, "This is a political matter. This is not a serious thing," end quote. Ooh. Attorney General Ellison, is there an organized crime ring operating in Minnesota? I'll answer for you, sir. Governor Walz believes there is an active crime ring in our state. In October, the governor said, quote, "We've got an organized crime ring in Minnesota. I think it's been going on for years." Moving on, Mr. Ellison, I, along with millions of Americans, have grave concerns over your alleged relationships with Somali fraudsters who have since been charged and convicted of federal crimes. I'm sure you are aware that over 90% of the defendants charged in the Feeding Our Future fraud case are of Somali descent. In fact, you have personal knowledge of these people. There's a 54-minute audio tape of your meeting with these criminals in December of 2021. And during your meeting, they complained to you about increased scrutiny of their nonprofits, and you told them, quote, "Of course I'm here to help," end quote. It's on the internet. Anyone can listen to you say that. Since then, you claim you were not aware of their crimes in the $250 million Feeding Our Future scheme, the largest pandemic fraud case in the nation. But just weeks after your December 2021 meeting, the FBI executed search warrants that you never would have requested in the Feeding Our Future fraud investigation. Now let's fast forward to September of 2022, 10 months after you met with the Somali fraudsters. your office issued a press release stating, quote, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and his office have been deeply involved for 2 years in holding Feeding Our Future accountable, end quote. So according to your office, sir, you have been deeply involved in the Feeding Our Future case since September of 2020. That actually sounds like you are saying that at the time of your infamous meeting with the Somali fraudsters, you were already aware of the allegations of fraud. When you had this meeting in December 2021, did you know, sir, about the long-running FBI investigation into Feeding Our Future? Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Emmer.
Reclaiming my time. When did you personally become aware of the FBI investigation? That's all I'm asking.
Representative Emmer, as you know, I have addressed this issue many times.
All right. Reclaiming my time. In that same meeting with the fraudsters, Mr. Attorney General, you took aim at the Minnesota Department of Education. You stated that the Minnesota Department of Education had fought the nonprofit in very disgusting ways, in a very racist, xenophobic, and Islamophobic manner. You actually asked for the names of all these folks who are just hung up and offered to call the Minnesota Department of Education to, quote, demand some explanations. We now know that when you made these comments, the Biden DOJ was working with the Minnesota Department of Education and that their work exposed the massive fraud ring. Pretty bad look for you, sir. Either you were oblivious to what was going on under your nose, or worse, you were trying to obstruct the work of the Minnesota Department of Education. So I can see the time is getting short. Mr. Chairman, we are left with two questions. One, what did Governor Walz and Keith Ellison know about the fraud? And two, when did they actually know it? I would suggest that if they do not give direct and truthful answers to both these questions at this hearing, then they both need to be put under oath in a deposition.
They need to be put under oath in a deposition. They both need to be investigated and indicted and tried by the Department of Justice. The evidence is clear. There is nothing more to say. You guys, there are quite a few additional clips that I had scheduled for you, but Lisa has informed me that dinner is ready, and so unfortunately, I need to bid you adieu and head on out there to hang out with my wife. Final thank yous over here on Rumble. Lee Walden says, and the walls come tumbling down. Filter Dog says, this is just, I actually read that one already. All right, and one final message from our friends over here on Rumble. Before we close out, you guys, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, I want to give you an opportunity to do so. The 1775 starter kits are still available. You're going to get their bold dark roast, their smooth medium roast, and their vitality mushroom coffee that gives you clean energy and laser focus with no crash. It's all single origin, small batch, toxin, and mold free, the highest quality coffee you can purchase. You're also going to get their gold spoon clip, a strong frother, and a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, and it's all yours for $99. This is for everybody who's been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wonder if it's actually worth it. It truly is. So head on over to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab one of their starter kits before they're gone. Get yourself a bundle of bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Thank you very much to the good folks at Rumble, and sorry to everyone for the technical difficulties we had today with my internet and my computer. Let's just pray that tomorrow it is not going to be that way. All right, you guys, enjoy your evening. I will be on Altered State tonight with Brad at 9 p.m. Perhaps I'll bring some of those clips over there. Otherwise, I'll be back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. Until that time, good luck and God bless. We will see you.